Why do you feel like you're the main character? The ego paradox. You wake up, you check your phone. Maybe there's a new message waiting for you, maybe not. You step outside, and the world unfolds in front of you. The people on the street move like extras in a film, their faces blurred, their stories unknown. You are here, at the center of it all. Everything you see, everything you experience, is filtered through your mind. You are the one who hears your own thoughts. You are the one making choices, the one who moves, the one who feels. And that feeling, the deep, unshakable belief that life is unfolding around you, isn't just a thought. It's something you live. You wouldn't even call it a belief. It's a certainty. Life is a story, and you are its protagonist. The world may be vast, but everything in it is happening in relation to you. But what if that's an illusion? Since childhood, you've been told that your life is important, that your choices matter, that you shape your own future. And in a way, all of that is true. But beneath all of it, buried in the depths of your subconscious, there is something even more fundamental, a belief that you rarely question. It's not just that you matter, it's that you matter the most, that your perspective is the central frame of reality itself, that your story is the primary one, and everything else, everything outside of your direct experience, is secondary. And yet, here is the paradox. Every single person feels this way. Every stranger you've passed on the street, every face you've seen in a crowd, each one of them wakes up in the morning and sees their own life as the main story. Each of them carries their own worries, their own regrets, their own ambitions. They have memories stretching back to childhood, defining moments that shaped them. They have people they love, people they have lost. And yet, in your version of reality, they are fleeting. They come and go. They exist only in the moments when you notice them. Think about the last time you stood in line at a coffee shop. You were there, waiting for your turn, lost in your own thoughts. Maybe you were planning your day, scrolling through your phone, thinking about a conversation you had earlier. In that moment, you were you. But the barista, the person behind you, the driver passing by outside, they weren't extras in a story about you. They weren't aware of you at all. They were the protagonists of their own experience, moving through a world where you barely existed. And yet, in your mind, their presence was only a backdrop. There is something unsettling about this realization. You feel like the main character, yet everyone else feels the same way. But if everyone is the main character, then is anyone really the main character at all? Now, what if this feeling, this deep-rooted sense of centrality, isn't just a bias, but something deeper? What if, somewhere in the back of your mind, you've actually questioned whether you were different from everyone else? Maybe you've had moments where life felt too perfectly timed to be a coincidence, a song playing at exactly the right moment, a phrase spoken by someone that felt like a direct answer to an unspoken question in your mind. Maybe you've even wondered, could this all be scripted? Some people take this idea to an extreme. There's a psychological phenomenon called the Truman Show Delusion, named after the 1998 film The Truman Show, where a man discovers that his entire life is a staged reality show, with actors playing the roles of his friends and family. People suffering from this delusion believe that their life is secretly being filmed, that everyone around them is in on a grand hidden narrative where they are the central character. Most of us don't take it that far. But deep down, in some small way, haven't you ever felt like the universe is watching? The reality is more unsettling. No one is watching. The universe isn't reacting to you. Life is not a scripted sequence unfolding with you at the center. It's not a film where every person you pass on the street is aware of your presence. This is the ego paradox. You are both special and insignificant at the same time. Your life is deeply meaningful to you. Your struggles are real. Your pain is valid. Your choices shape your path. But in the grand scheme of reality, you are no more important than anyone else. You are just one out of billions, existing on a planet that is one out of billions, orbiting a star that is one out of billions, inside a galaxy that is one out of billions. Zoom out far enough, and your entire life becomes an invisible moment in time. You will live, and one day you will die. Billions of people before you have walked this path. Billions will come after. If the universe had consciousness, it would not even notice. Yet still, you feel like the center of the story, and maybe, in some way, that feeling isn't entirely wrong. Because no matter how vast the universe is, you will never experience it from any perspective but your own. You will never be able to see through another person's eyes. You will never hear another person's thoughts. You are the only observer of your reality. Some philosophers argue that this goes even further, that perhaps you are different from everyone else, not in the way you think, but in a much stranger way. What if you are the only conscious being in existence? This is the idea of solipsism, the belief that only your mind is real, and everything else, every person, every experience, is merely an illusion, a projection of your consciousness, a reality constructed only for you. You could never prove otherwise. Think about it. How do you know that anyone else truly has an inner world? You assume they do, because they act like they do. They talk, they react, they express emotions. But does that mean they experience life the way you do? When you leave a room, when you are no longer perceiving them, are they still real? Or do they vanish into the unknown? Of course, rationally, we believe that other people have consciousness. We trust that their experiences are real, just as ours are. But the truth is, we can never truly know. And if you can't prove that others are real, then doesn't that make you, in a way, the only main character? So what do we make of all this? Are you the protagonist? Number not in the way you imagine. You are not special in the eyes of the universe. You are not being watched, scripted, or guided by some grand, invisible force. The world does not bend itself to your narrative. But you are the main character of your own story. Because that's the only story you will ever know. You will never experience life from another person's perspective. You will never see the world through another set of eyes. For you, existence begins and ends with your perception. So yes, on a cosmic scale, you are nothing. But to yourself, you are everything. And maybe that's the only truth that matters. So now I leave you with a question. If you're the main character of your own life, what kind of story will you choose to tell? But what does it truly mean to craft your own story? If you are the only one who will ever experience your life from the inside, then every moment, every choice, every thought you have is shaping the world you live in, not for anyone else, but for you. And yet, this realization brings its own weight. If you are the only true observer of your own existence, does that mean that meaning itself is something you must create? If there is no external audience watching, no cosmic narrator guiding your path, then what does it mean to live a meaningful life? The burden of existence is that it belongs solely to you. No one else will ever live your story. No one else will ever feel what you feel. The weight of your memories, the intensity of your emotions, the silent thoughts you have late at night, those are yours alone. Even the people closest to you, the ones who love you most, will never truly understand the depth of what it feels like to be you. And perhaps that is the loneliest truth of all. But if you accept this, if you truly internalize the idea that you are both insignificant and irreplaceable, that no one is watching, and yet you are the sole witness to your reality, then you are free. Free from expectation. Free from the need for external validation. Free to exist not for others, not for some imagined audience, but for yourself. Maybe this is what it means to awaken to your own existence. To recognize that if you are the main character of your life, then you have the power to shape the narrative. Not in some grand cinematic way, but in the small, quiet choices that make up every day. The decision to be kind when no one is watching. The effort to understand rather than judge. The choice to seek out meaning even when meaning is not given to you. Because in the end, perhaps the real paradox is not that we feel like main characters. The paradox is that we are both protagonists and extras at the same time. That in our own lives, we are the central figures, and in the lives of others, we are fleeting. The person you pass on the street, the stranger who glances at you in passing, they will forget you, just as you will forget them. But for that single moment, You exist in each other's worlds. A brief intersection of two realities, each unaware of the depth of the other. If you could step outside of yourself, if you could see the world from a higher perspective, you would see a vast web of stories, each person lost in their own narrative, each believing that they are the main character. And yet, the world does not bend for any of them. It moves forward, indifferent to the small tragedies and triumphs that make up human life. But that doesn't mean those stories don't matter. They matter because we live them. They matter because we feel them. They matter because they are the only ones we will ever know. So, if you are the only true observer of your life, then the question is not whether you are the main character. The question is, what will you do with the story you have? Will you let it pass by, waiting for something external to give it meaning? Or will you recognize that meaning has always been yours to create? In the end, life is neither a film nor a novel. There is no pre-written script, no guaranteed conclusion. There is only the experience itself. And within that experience, you are the center. Not because you are chosen, not because the universe is watching, but because you are here, because you exist. And maybe that is enough. So as you step back into your own world, as you move through the moments of your life, ask yourself, if this is truly my story, if I am the only one who will ever live it, what kind of ending do I want to write? Because no matter how small you are in the grand scheme of the universe, no matter how brief your existence may be, this moment is yours. And that is the only story that will ever truly matter.